Hey guys, it's Mike here, and today I'm going to be talking about a big story developing at the moment featuring Disney and Fox Studios. If you haven't heard, Disney is apparently in off and on talks with Fox to purchase the assets from 20th Century Fox, which would include their movie and television divisions as well as assets. And if this does in fact happen, it could be another massive acquisition for Disney, who currently has ownership of movie studios such as Marvel, Pixar, and Lucasfilm, giving them control over their massively successful franchises like the MCU and Star Wars. And as such, this has sparked a lot of thought in the community about what this could mean for the film industry and the future of these franchises. Well, I have my own thoughts on this possible move for Disney, so in this video, I'm gonna break those down. Make sure to subscribe to this channel and enable notifications so you could see all of my content right away when it comes out. So the first thing which has come to mind for many comic book movie fans, and particularly Marvel fans, is Fox's ownership of Fantastic Four and of course the X-Men. Ever since the beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, fans have been wanting to see possible crossovers between these respective franchises. As after all, you can pick up numerous comics and seeing them all interacting, fighting, and just having fun adventures. However, the biggest thing which has held this back is Fox owning the rights for adapting these properties. The reason for this is that back in the 1990s, Marvel was doing poorly financially and risking bankruptcy, so as a result they sold off film rights to a number of studios, such as Fox, Sony, and Paramount. However, once the films such as Blade, X-Men, and Spider-Man started to do well at the box office, Marvel was doing better financially and decided to develop their own movie studio, Marvel Studios, as well as their own interconnected cinematic universe, which began with Iron Man. However, Fox was still in possession of these rights, and thus continued to make Fantastic Four and X-Men based films and series. Thus, the possibility of crossovers between these franchises was slim due to executive decisions and red tape. The only way for this to happen would be for a deal to be made with Fox and Disney, who went on to purchase Marvel Studios, which is similar to the deal between Disney and Sony for Spider-Man Homecoming, or for Disney to outright buy back the rights from Fox, which is now what seems to be in the process of happening. Now, as far as the X-Men go, I think the films have been handled well for the most part. They haven't all been great, with the X-Men Origins Wolverine and X3 being big examples, yet they've also given us the great first two X-Men films, which made a huge impact on cinema when they were released, as well as Deadpool and Logan, which are having an effect on studios as we speak. The X-Men properties have been hugely popular for decades now, giving us great comics, video games, and also animated series. So this would be a very popular and attention-grabbing addition to the MCU. However, a question that arises from this is how would they be implemented? I personally don't want to see another reboot. X-Men has already had a reboot of sorts with X-Men First Class, which continued into Days of Future Past in the following films. The actors playing Xavier and Magneto and Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen are excellent, and the same goes for James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender as their younger counterparts. And so is Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, who has really been the glue that held much of the franchise together up until this point. Over the years since the first film, audiences have grown attached to these actors in these roles. So if Disney and Marvel acquire them and instantly reboot it with new actors and ignore all prior continuity, this would be met with negative reactions and eye rolls from many fans, who are frankly suffering reboot fatigue. So I think that a good idea would be to try and incorporate the X-Men world the way it already is, even if they have to make some retcons just to make it work with both continuities. Although the X-Men world in many ways has never totally fit in with the larger Marvel world. After all, the Avengers and many superheroes are beloved by the world at large, and work together with governments as well as private organizations, while the public supports them in most examples. Meanwhile, the X-Men are hated by the world, who are afraid of them because they also happen to have powers, and who also have to fight for their own equality, which the other superpowered characters already have. So they feel like two different worlds. So perhaps the best way to present the X-Men is for them to be from a parallel universe or timeline. And perhaps the next big event after Infinity War, or the battle to use the Infinity Gauntlet itself, will cause a portal to open between these universes, leading to the X-Men entering the MCU. And this would be really cool, as it could place the X-Men into a world where people with powers aren't necessarily hated. And they could see what the world Xavier is fighting for would be like. However, on the other hand, it could lead to contention between the X-Men and the Avengers, as maybe Xavier won't agree with how the Avengers use their powers, and view them more as agents of war instead of peace like the X-Men. Either way, if it leads to the Avengers versus the X-Men, possibly in the Avengers film of the next phase, that would be an awesome sight for audiences. When it comes to Fantastic Four, however, this is a bit of a different case. The Fantastic Four have not been the most successful in their film adaptations, as the original Roger Corman film is hilariously bad, and the two from the 2000s are pretty bland and campy, especially compared to the current comic book films. However, I have little interest in them as characters, and no one will really be upset if they're recast. However, what I'm concerned with is the greater universe they come along with. After all, Fox not only owns the rights to the Fantastic Four, they also own the rights to many of the characters, alien races, and concepts which debuted in their comics. And this happens to be a lot, as it was a tentpole series from creators Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Much like how the MCU can't use mutant characters because Fox owns that along with the X-Men rights, Marvel is also not able to use Silver Surfer, Galactus, the Skrulls, Gladiator, the Shi'ar, Namor, or even Doctor Doom. All of these characters fall under Fox's control, and considering that many of these are integral to the cosmic side of the greater Marvel universe, which the MCU is exploring further and further with Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor Ragnarok, and Thanos, this is something that will really hold them back unless they can take control of these rights. And considering that Fox has continually made films with the Fantastic Four entirely to keep the rights away from Marvel, Disney may have to buy them if they ever want to take hold of these assets. But even beyond Marvel is also the fact that Disney does not have a 100% ownership over Star Wars. While they spent $4 billion to purchase Lucasfilm and the Star Wars properties back in 2012, they actually didn't get all of the rights for the first Star Wars movie, Episode 4: A New Hope, as Fox owned the rights to the film and its distribution going back to the original production. So if Disney wishes to put out an unedited original trilogy on 4K Blu-ray, for example, they're going to need to get those rights from Fox. And as someone who has wanted to see that sort of release for years, I'd definitely be in favor of this aspect of the merger. And it only makes smart business sense to want to have all of your property as opposed to most of it. But another huge part of this I think many are overlooking is that Fox also owns a number of other franchises across movies and television which Disney stands to acquire. This includes film franchises such as Alien, Predator, Die Hard, Planet of the Apes, and of course Avatar. And for TV, this also includes massive ongoing series such as The Simpsons and Family Guy, and perhaps the Fox television network itself. Getting a hold of these would also be huge for Disney's entertainment division, as these are successful franchises which a number of are still ongoing. And a big standout, of course, is Avatar, as not only was the original the most financially successful film of all time, but James Cameron is in the process of working on multiple sequels, which will no doubt be successful as well. And with Disney building the Avatar land in Animal Kingdom, it makes sense for them to actually want to own the movies that the attraction is based on. However, I can definitely see some potential negatives for some of these properties, more specifically the R-rated and more adult properties, as Disney has a reputation for sanitizing products and making them more family-friendly, which doesn't lend itself well to a series like Alien, which is overflowing with gore, violence, and disturbing subject matter. Many people have also brought up Deadpool as a possible casualty, since the first film was so successful in large part because it was an R-rated movie which catered to the often neglected adult audience, and so much of the fun comes from them taking full advantage of this. So if Deadpool suddenly shifts to PG-13, it may be jarring and diminish the appeal. But the thing is that Disney has shown to be a smart company, and when it comes to Lucasfilm, for example, they seem to leave a lot of the decisions up to those running these films. Thus, it's entirely possible that they will continue to allow for R-rated films in the future. After all, Disney owned Miramax for years, which was the banner that Quentin Tarantino and Kevin Smith made many of their films under. So while I think it's possible that these fears could be realized, the more of these properties Disney acquires, the more scrutiny they will be put under to handle them well from audiences. And if they feel that audiences won't turn up to see their films, they could very well evolve to suit these needs. Also, there are some properties which Fox dropped the ball on, and Disney could very well reboot in the future or try again. A huge example of this is the Dragon Ball property, which was handled terribly with Dragon Ball Evolution. However, considering the wonders Disney has done for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think this is definitely worth another shot, and could be just another huge film franchise for them if done well. They don't even need to start it at the beginning, as they could simply start with Dragon Ball Z, pulling a Lord of the Rings and beginning with the most popular section. So even this is a dark horse candidate for more financial success. So overall, I think this is a huge deal that could really shake up the film industry and lead to even greater successes than what Disney already has. There's likely even more to it than what I've covered here, but in a number of ways, I'm on board here. While 20th Century Fox is a nostalgic studio, and I'll miss their openings with the spotlights that have begun so many of my favorite films, their management in recent years hasn't exactly been stellar. And while some of these concerns may be valid, only time will tell if they really matter. Either way, it's really an exciting time to be a fan of movies. Now let's just see where it goes from here. Alright guys, so this has been me breaking down my thoughts on the possibility of Disney buying Fox and what the future of all of these franchises could be. Let me know your own thoughts down below in the comments, whether or not you think this is a good idea, what you would like to see them do possibly with X-Men, Fantastic Four, and the MCU, as well as these other properties that they may acquire. And if you like this video, hit the subscribe button and enable notifications so you can see all of my videos right away when they come out. And as I always say, stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Yes, and you'd better subscribe and enable those notifications.